Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the UFL DFS video for, I'm going to call it the first week of the playoffs because it's not technically a week number, but it's the very first round of the playoffs. And if you've been following my videos for the entirety of the season, part of the season, or join me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is kind of how today's video will be structured. We'll be going through my sheet for this week. Obviously, there's only 4 teams out there, so we'll talk a little bit about each player, whether or not I consider them a cash game option, a GPP option, or a paydown option. Obviously, you're going to have to mix and match a little bit more this week and get a little bit more creative since there's only 4 teams on the table to be had. But it should make for a very interesting week overall, and hopefully you guys have some pretty good luck out there in the contest that you are playing. So we're going to start off with the Birmingham Stallions. I'm just going to mention the guys that are inactive. So Jamar Smith's the third quarterback once again, pretty much how it's been all season. Adrian Martinez will get all the snaps at quarterback unless he unfortunately gets hurt. So $10,500, like the rushing upside of him. I would consider him the cash game play of the quarterbacks, but I think every quarterback is in play for this week overall as we'll get talking through it. And obviously, kind of the elephant in the room is he is coming off a pretty poor week, but he does have arguably the safest upside of any of these quarterbacks just in general. At running back, Ricky Pearson Jr. is back this week. He's technically listed as the starter on the depth chart. You know, if you want to roll him out GPPs, you could play him and CJ Marable and GPPs as kind of leverage plays if you want to do so. Don't really have a problem with that. Obviously, like I said, Ricky Pearson Jr. is listed as the starter for this week. And then in terms of the receiving options, mainly the same 3 guys that we've seen in recent weeks. So Deion Kane, Marlon Williams, and Jay Sternberger is the 3 that I would consider GPP options. If you want to go down and leverage Amari Rodgers just a little bit, you could do that as well. And then any other receiving option outside of that would just kind of be a dart throw just for this week in general. But feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. And with that being said, recently it's been Jay Sternberger kind of getting the big performances. But I still think Deion Kane, Marlon Williams, both will be very involved this week overall. I would assume that probably Deion Kane's the lowest one, maybe Marlon Williams, but we'll just have to see. I think Sternberger is probably going to be pretty popular this week, coming off a couple of good weeks in a row. And then for the Stallions defense, I consider them a GPP option. I know they were missed a couple guys last week. It's still Danny Etling at quarterback against them. Brian Lewerke is the backup, and then E.J. Perry coming off the injury is going to be that third quarterback for Michigan. So I do like the Stallions defense. I think they'll probably step it up this week. So GPP option probably in line with the field or slightly overweight to the field on them this week overall. Then we're going to move down to the Michigan Panthers team. Like I mentioned, E.J. Perry is back this week, but he will be operating as the third quarterback, so we don't really expect to see him in this game. Bryce Perkins was placed on IR this week, unfortunately ending his season. And Danny Etling will be the quarterback. He's $9,300. He does have that rushing upside, but of the 4 quarterbacks in play this week, he probably has the lowest floor of anyone. And probably the biggest chance of getting benched at any point, too, even though I don't think Brian Lewerke is very good whatsoever, but that's a story for a different day. So he does have that rushing upside. You know, if you want to play him as kind of that leverage play, you can definitely do it. He should have the lowest ownership of all 4 of the quarterbacks once again. And then kind of the interesting point on their depth chart this week is that they did list Nate McCreary as the starter at running back with Matthew Colburn back this week. I still think Colburn's a GPP play. I think you could play Nate McCreary as kind of a leverage play if that's something you really want to do this week. But I still would rely more on Colburn myself personally. And then Toa Tua, who was active last week, is going to be inactive for this game. They do get Marcus Sims back at wide receiver, so $7,200. Been battling that hamstring injury. How many snaps does he actually play in this game? Be interesting to see. I think he's still a GPP option. I still think I like Siosier Mariner just a little bit more than him just in general, but it's going to be pretty close. It's going to be interesting to see which one comes in with the highest amount of ownership. And then beyond them at wide receiver, it's really just kind of picking your poison. Hopefully you get the guy that has the good week. And Terry Wright's going to be inactive with Marcus Sims being back this week. If you look at the depth chart, it does have Trey Quinn listed as both the kick and punt returner for this week overall. I know Sims could do a little bit of kick returning normally, but with that hamstring injury, I think they really don't want him doing it. And that would be kind of, you know, the specialization of Terry Wright just in general. And then for the tight ends, not really too interested in here. Derek Deese Jr. is going to be inactive once again. He did get that ability to be on the active roster for the final week of the season since that was the only week he was active. Gunnar Oates really hasn't done much. Cole Catini, if you really want to get there at $3,500, could be kind of a dart throw, but I wish he was just a little bit cheaper at this point in time, to be honest. And then for the Panthers defense, I consider them the paydown option. Probably be slightly overweight to the field on them this week, $3,500. Coming off a pretty good week versus the Stallions, if we're being completely honest. But, you know, the Stallions were resting a couple guys in that game, although Adrian Martinez did play that entire game. And the Michigan Panthers defense did have him kind of in shambles. So there is the potential that that could happen once again this week. And then we're going to move down to the San Antonio Brahmas. It is expected that Chase Garbers will be the starting quarterback once again this week, so he's a GPP option. If you really think he gets benched this week, I guess you could play Quentin Dormady, but that would be like a complete dart throw, but I'm not really getting there myself personally. I do assume that Anthony McFarland's back this week. I have no idea if John Lovett's going to be back or not. I have yet to find a practice report or a practice injury report for the Brahmas and the Battlehawks, so keep that in mind. But we will have, their inactives and their depth charts coming out later this evening, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But until further notice, I'm going to say Anthony McFarland is a GPP option. We'll see what the rest of the running back room looks like as we do get all that news. And then we move down to wide receivers. And wide receivers, I think it's really just Justin Smith and Deontay Kirkland this week. Both solid GPP options. Kirkland, you might be able to argue as a cash game option this week overall. I think he's probably going to have a pretty big week once again. And then kind of beyond them, if you want to take some shots on somebody else, whether it's Stevenson, Turner, Puka Williams, Landon Akers, you could definitely do that, but there's no real guarantee on who's going to really stand out from that group overall this week. Alize Mack at tight end, if you think he gets enough snaps and enough targets, he could be worth it at $3,100 as a potential paydown option. The Brahmas defense, I kind of have as the cash game play. I think, with AJ McCarron still kind of being banged up, there are some rumors that, some of the players were going after his ankle last week. Honestly, it's kind of more of a phony story and report, but this Brahmas defense is very good. I think there is upside to be had there. Potential cash game play, if you want to play one of the Stallions or Panthers defense over them, wouldn't hate you for doing so, though. And then we're going to move down to that Battlehawks team. So AJ McCarron at quarterback, $10,000. Does have, pretty decent upside. Obviously, he doesn't have the rushing upside of all the other quarterbacks, being the most pocket passer to start off of the bunch. And then he's got that ankle injury on top of it that he's been dealing with and coming back from. So we'll see what that looks like ultimately this week overall. I think Jacob Saylors at running back could be considered a cash game option if you really want to go there. Obviously, the most expensive priced running back on the slate. But I think probably the safest one in general. You could argue him and maybe Matthew Colburn if you wanted to go that direction. And then we move down to the wide receivers. So I think mainly this week, GPP options are going to be Hakeem Butler and Darius Shepard. Seems like that's kind of the way things were trending last week. If you want to take that shot on Ja'Cory Pearson, you can definitely do that. And then I have Steven Mitchell Jr. listed as a paydown option. We'll see whether or not Marcel Aitman's back for this game, but even the last game that he was allegedly healthy for, he was kind of a scratch in that game too. So I'm not too excited to get to him either way. Blake Jackson, who I did mention, is kind of a paydown option last week. Only played like 6 or 7 snaps last week. So not very interested in him once again. So it's pretty much going to be like the 4 main wide receivers and mainly just targeting the 3 guys this week overall. In terms of the tight ends, they're just not playing enough snaps once again. And then that Battlehawks defense, I consider them a GPP option because there is upside to be had there. But I think out of all the defenses, they probably have the least upside or the least amount to hit that upside overall, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I'm at just in general for this week. If you guys have any other specific questions relating to UFL DFS for the first round of the playoffs, be sure to let me know down in the comments. As always, I will be posting the updates as they do come out later this evening in terms of the inactives, in terms of the depth charts as well for the final 2 teams. This spreadsheet will be updated later tonight once we do get that news over on the Patreon at patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. So definitely be sure to check that out once again as well. Very small monthly donation over there. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS Monday through Friday in terms of the core pick videos. Obviously, we got this UFL DFS video typically coming out once a week. Obviously, there will only be one more week after this, and that will be for the championship game, which will be a single game slate, so that video will be structured slightly differently. And then I also do have my CFL DFS videos coming out once a week, typically on Wednesdays. Obviously, some of the weeks for CFL, when they start later, it'll be a little bit later in the week. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're interested in as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100, and then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had there if you're just getting started out. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. I'd be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on, and some pretty good luck in UFL DFS for the first round of the playoffs.